Hello, good evening. I think we are live. I don't know. Can somebody in
Hello,
chat
everyone.
confirm that we are live actually?
It usually takes a couple of seconds. Yeah, there we are.
Right. We're there. We're live. Ooh, this is exciting.
We are. Okay. So there's a bit of a delay, which is
Very
fine.
nice, very nice. All right. Good evening, everyone, or good day, wherever you guys are. Thank you for being here. I'm David. You might know me from chat. And we have Christian here today as well.
Hello. You might know me from chat as well, although I'm not that busy over there.
Right. Cool. All right. Well, the Bladesong Playtest is about to start very, very soon. So we're here and we're going to show what we have. We're going to talk a little bit about a couple of things, answer some common questions. So if you want to know anything specifically, just drop something in the chat. We're reading along and we will try our best to answer all the questions. Hey, everyone. Oh, hey, Tony, you made it. That's great. All right. So what you're seeing here on screen is the Bladesong tech demo build. And right away it tells you, well, this thing is going to be playable until February 11. So once it starts, you have a good a week and a bit to actually play this thing. And I hope you're all on our Discord server. I guess most of you came here from Discord. Discord is going to be crazy during the time. We have some things prepared. Oh, we have Baltimore Knife and Sword here. That is very nice. Hello.
Hello.
And yes, we have some things prepared during the week. We have channels that we're going to open once the playtest starts to share your creations and to share your crazy, because people are going to make the weirdest stuff with this tech demo. And we can't wait to see it all. I think we did last year in June, July, we had a playtest and it was a freaking blast. So personally,
Sniper
I can't wait.
rifles. We had crossbows, all sorts of weird things. Was amazing. Looking forward to that. Really, really. I like last time I tried to make a sword myself, but I was so busy looking at what everyone else was creating that I didn't get to play the game myself
Right.
at all.
Well, maybe this time. Maybe this time.
We'll see.
Good. Okay, so for those of you who are completely new to Bladesong, let's click that we understand. Let's talk very briefly about what Bladesong actually is. Well, Bladesong is a sword making game, as you all know. What you've seen so far of the game is Bladesong's creative mode, so that is just pure freaking sword making, right? No restrictions, just go in there, go ham, have fun, be creative. And that's what you're going to be playing during this playtest as well. There is also this grayed out button new game that says, well, we're still working on Bladesong's main gameplay mode. For now, enjoy our sword making tech without limitations in creative mode. So the main gameplay as we have envisioned it for Bladesong is not yet in here. We're going to talk a bit more about this later on. But for now, I think let's just get started and jump in creative mode and have a look at what we can actually do in this playtest build, or what you all can do once this is unlocked. Just to bring this up right away, there's a button here, feedback survey. So once you play the game, we will be very interested in hearing your feedback, and this button here brings you to a survey where you can answer a bunch of questions, and that will make it very easy for us to parse all of the feedback that you have. All right, Christian, shall we?
Yeah, before you start making a sword, there's already two questions about a potential release date, so I thought might as well get that out of the way before we dive in.
Right. So potential release date. Well, it's still the early days for Bladesong. We're doing pretty good on the technical side. We're starting to have things figured out. We have a good creative mode, I think, and I hope you all will agree once you play it. We don't have a fixed release date yet. Last year, people asked me, and I said 2024 plus 2024 if we're lucky. Probably 2025 for a full release. It really depends on a lot of factors. We're going to be talking to publishers starting in February, and then we're going to talk through the option of doing an early access release potentially. I guess if we're doing early access, you might see it this year. If we're actually finishing all the gameplay and all the story mode that we have envisioned for this game, then it's going to be 2025. So both is possible. Right.
So,
Creative mode, here we go. Okay, I think I'll just start making a new blade, and you guys can give me some pointers as to the direction I should take it in. I'll try having an eye on the chat. Good. So when you start out in Bladesong, you get this billet. If you've watched any streamer during the last days or watched any kind of videos, then you will have seen this this view here. And on the left we have our abilities that we use to shape the blade. So let's start by applying a draw out. I click that, it appears here on the right, so that's it's an important concept. You click something, it appears on the right, and that's where the stuff that you actually do is located, right? Ooh, the magic words thingy. Yes, the magic words thingy is our sharing function, which is new in this build. There was no way to share swords between people last time. This time you can just click on the share button, you get some magic words copied into your clipboard, and then you can share them and paste them. Somebody else can paste them here and get a copy of your sword in their game. Good. So let's make something simple, flatten this thing up. Super important thing, I want to highlight this. Well, actually there is a tutorial, and I want you all to promise me right now that you're at least going to briefly skim over this. I know it's not great. For the main game we have a tutorial that is much more interactive, but it's also much easier to tutorialize, because in creative mode, well, you get hit with a lot of stuff at once. In main game we have progression, you know, we can have you start in level 1 basically with just a few features, and then you unlock things bit by bit. So the tutorial is going to be much nicer there, but here you just have to do a bunch of reading and clicking through. And please do that, because otherwise you will be a bit lost, I guess, if it's your first time playing Bladesong. But you can also watch me right now doing the interactive tutorial for you. Hello, Redbeard. So one very important concept that some people seem to miss is there's this central red line here, right? And you click that and you drag it up and down to set the intensity of the ability that you have selected. So I have the flatten, it's currently at 74%. If I drag that down to 0, well then it's not flattened at all. If I drag that up, I increase the intensity of my flatten, and that's what makes the blade flatter. This here is the cross-section display, so if I want to see what's actually going on in my sword, I can see that I have brought it down. Is my video? No, it's just readable, right? Okay. I can see that I have flattened it down to 0.36 centimeters, so let's bring it up just a little bit. Okay, that's fine. Broaden the blade a bit. And Christian, you said you wanted me to make something with a little bit more of an interesting shape.
yeah, I was thinking about a Bronze Age sword or something. We saw a very nice one in the museum about a year ago. I really liked it. I thought you might enjoy making that.
Let me try to do it from memory, which is going to be a bit tough because I haven't looked at it in a bit. But they do have kind of a leaf blade-ish shape, right? So they're going a bit tapered like this. And they have a strong point like this. Is this going in the right direction? And then fullers, right? Fullers all freaking over. Oh yes, it's Unreal 5. You can actually see that I'm running it in the build here, in the engine right now. So not actually showing you guys the build. Let's look at the cross section. So that's another thing. some abilities you control with this central line here, right, by dragging that up and down, and others have these what we call extra controls. So if you want to control the cross section, you can actually just drag these points around and shape this thing any way you want. Right, so this is a great point in time to actually show one new feature that we've been working on. Once I finish the point here, yeah, this looks kind of interesting. So these Bronze Age swords, they do have some interesting fuller combinations usually, right? They often have these blades that are basically ridged all over, I want to say. So let's start with a fuller. I'm just gonna drag that out. If you played the previous build, the playtest last year, then fullers were pretty simple there. You just had one main fuller, you couldn't move it sidewards. So you could do that right now, right? Just grab the thing, move it left and right. And I am going to make this a ridge actually instead of a fuller. It's a bit wider like this. Nice subtle fade here at the end. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the extra fullers that we have now. This is a brand new feature that you can use in this upcoming playtest. So instead of one fuller, you actually have 3. And I kind of offset my main fuller here. I'm gonna make these ridges as well. Them a bit narrower. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, this is nice. Oh boy, blast from the past. Good cross section. Let's actually make that a little more hollow. Okay, this is looking nice. Yes, I like this. I like this. Sadly, we don't have blade materials yet. They are absolutely planned, but I cannot actually make this thing anything else than steel. So steel will have to do for now. Right, so multifullers is one of the primary new features that we have in this build. It was a bit of a beast to implement this correctly. So you might find some quirks with it. If you do find bugs when you play this, please jump on our Discord, and there's a bug reports channel forum thing where you can report anything that goes wrong, right? We'd love to know.
Do we already have a bunch of blade materials in mind that we could foreshadow? I mean, it's not planned for the playtest, but for later.
Yes. Well, I'm guessing once we have a system to do that, pretty much everything and anything. So the thing is, main gameplay will revolve around actually analyzing the physics of these blades, right? You could see it here, that we're computing the center of gravity, for example, and some other physical properties of the blade. So steel is going to be the most important material for a long time. I could imagine, you know, different colors of steel. There's blued steel, there is, oh god, this kind of blackened steel, burnished, I think it's called. And then I could also think of actually fiddling around with this and trying to introduce fantasy materials that have, you know, the same strength as steel, but are lighter in weight. So that way you could actually make crazy big anime swords, make a Guts sword, or a Buster sword or something, and it could still be, you know, viable. So that would be something that would be very interesting. Damascus, yes, any kind of Damascus, Woods, steel, Wurmbund. That would be very nice, yes. We'll get there eventually. Just one more trick I want to show off here before we go to actually building the hilt for this. There's 2 kinds of narrow in the game, and I quickly want to show what the difference is. And I think I can do that here. So let's say you want to narrow your blade at a certain place, and let me just slap a regular narrow on here, and try to narrow this section a bit. So you can see that what this does is it pretty much scales down the entire blade, right? So the cross section is scaled inwards and everything is shifted, which might not be what you want. What I actually want is to just cut off basically this harsh corner here a bit. So there's the second type of narrow. It's called narrow grind. And well, yeah, if you think about grinding, that's kind of actually what it does. So it actually just grinds out the material here, leaving all the edge angles intact, right? So I can make something interesting like this if I so desire. Another thing you're seeing me do constantly here is right-clicking these white circles to change the kind of blend that is being used. So that's another reason why you should actually read the tutorial, because some gems like this are hidden in there, and they are good to know. So this looks pretty nice. I like this.
And you also show different fuller types. I think you've only used the smooth one now, or
yes, we have the round and the smooth one. So let me bring in the main fuller a bit. So this is the smooth one, right? It just fades out, and we have a rounded fuller, and I can just put it here. And this has a hard edge basically, and you can make it somewhat rounded if you're choosing the right kind of blend at the end. And then for each fuller you can control the depth, right? So it can be super deep fuller, or it can become a ridge like this, and then you can control the width and the offset as well. So
nice. There was a question, if we're gonna add materials like Damascus steel, would it be the plan to have people actually customize the amount of folds and the colors and stuff so that they can get their unique texture? And I think right now it's too early to answer if that will be possible in the end, but I think like ideally we'd go for something like that, right? Because that would be amazing to have, to be able to maybe even just mirror things around and choose your own shapes, stuff like that, so that you can create a pattern that you have in mind. But I mean, that's like from my mind nowhere near possible in the game, or it's not even said that will ever happen. But yeah, we can't say.
We will have to talk to somebody who actually knows their way around Damascus patterns and folded steel welding, pattern welded stuff. Thank God we have some people on the server, so we can actually talk to them and learn how this stuff actually works, because we're not blacksmiths ourselves, right? So yeah, frankly, I don't know enough yet about how these things even work technically to say what we will support and what not. But yeah, we'd love to, I think.
There's another question that should be a quick one for you to answer. What the blue and red lines mean that you
Oh yes, let me super quickly slap a hilt on here, like the most basic hilt that I can build. Okay, so the blue line is the center of mass, right? It's listed here as point of balance. So if you want to balance the sword on some kind of on your finger, there you go. And then the other two are what's called pivot points. It's a bit harder to explain, but basically if you take the sword here and you move it left to right at this forward position here on the hilt, this position here will stay in place. And likewise, if you move the back of the sword with your other hand, maybe if it's a two-handed sword, then this position will stay in place. And well, there's different opinions on what that actually means, but there's some great videos online. If you look for the waggle test, or just the term pivot points on swords, there's a video from Peter Johnson, for example, where he demonstrates that on some long swords, the forward pivot point tends to be near the point of the sword. So when you do this, let me bring up my demonstration sword. there it is. Okay. So if you do a sidewards motion like this, then the point of the sword will actually stay in place in midair, basically. So if you have it centered on an opponent, you can move the sword sidewards, and still, you know, have or keep your opponent in danger, basically. Then there's other people who say, well, it doesn't matter, I can do it with any kind of sword, no matter where the pivot point is, so maybe they're useless. Who knows? Well, that's practicalities, I think.
Yeah, I was about to make a comment on your tiny cute blade, and if you could show it again, because it was a bit blurred.
What was blurred?
Maybe
Sorry.
that's something for later.
What was blurred? I'm sorry.
I think the camera focus was off, but it would no worries. Just continue.
Okay. I will. Good. So let's build. Let's delete this, and let me press Control Z a couple of times, because we actually have an undo redo system in the game now. So that is something that many people were missing in the first playtest. You built a hilt, right? You might build something complex where you actually put some parts on here and scale things up and down, maybe assign some materials to it, and then you go and actually delete the thing, and then you're like, oh shit. So just Control Z, there it is. This is actually looking kinda cool. I want some gold for this, because yeah, I think I need some gold in my life. This is good. Let's do this. Let's actually take some little spacer rings, you know, decorate this thing a bit. Obsidian, yes. Obsidian and gold. It's a great combination. How did you just place it all on the hilt? Well, we have specific parts, right? Some of the guards are just, you know, single pieces, and that's it. But then there's these centerpiece parts, and they have more slots on the side, at the top, and you can freely combine things that way. Another trick that you might want to use... Oh, I'm gonna show that other trick a bit later, actually, when I'm showing engravings.
That's your tease.
Good. Let's build a bit of a hilt here. So I'm just gonna space out a couple of these grip parts. Maybe like this. Okay, because now I can insert... Oops.
How did you cycle through the different parts without picking them on the left?
Oh yes, there is hotkeys for this, so you can press Q and E. Q and E keys to go through, or you can hold Control and use the mouse wheel to scroll through things super quickly. Okay, say that 10 times in a row. Right.
No, I won't.
Please do. Please do. Actually, I'm gonna replace this one, make it a bit longer, and pick this guy because I love it. And I'm gonna take the wire wrap material because I love that one too. Okay, let me actually put some color on this. I don't know, I would wield it. I would take it into battle. I think it's good. I'm always doing the same stuff. It's really a curse. Like when you're playing this all over, I'm always making the same kinds of swords, you know? So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what all of you guys are making with this, and seeing some different pieces, you know? Let's actually switch the environment. Look at this in a different light, so to speak. This is nice.
Starting to look nice already. One question from earlier was if it's possible to have the tang non-centered.
Right now, no. We're thinking about how to handle, well, generally curved hilts. There is not a single curved hilt in this playtest, sadly. Long term, I think we will build something where you actually place a hilt part and then get a certain amount of control over this, like shaping the start of this handle, shaping the middle, shaping the end, so in terms of the radius, and then maybe also, you know, curving this thing a bit, and then the tang should follow this thing. I think we'll do it this way around, instead of saying you can shape the tang as you want, you know, and then put parts on top of it and they will adjust to the tang. I don't think we're gonna do that, but well, it's neither way is fully designed yet. So if you have thoughts on this, please do share them with us. Also on our Discord server we have a suggestions forum, so that is a very good place to do that.
There's another question about blade materials. I think this is more of a out there question because we don't really know yet. But if we're gonna do blade materials, blah, I can't speak. Blade materials and assigning them, if that's gonna be like the hilt part materials selection or assignment that we currently have, or if that's gonna be different.
A very good question.
Already?
I think it's gonna be different, to be honest. Well, in creative mode, it might be similar, you know, because you can switch through these things. In main game, I think the material is a commitment that you will make from the start, just also because that's more realistic, you know. But yeah, I think in main game you will select some kind of starting billet, basically, that gives you rough size of that you have to work with, and also the material that you have to work with. And then in creative mode, we'll see. We'll make it all very accessible in creative mode, first and foremost, so I'm not gonna add any restrictions there. All right. Shall we take a look at engravings, actually? So there's a new feature. There's two new features hidden in this. So one of the new features is engravings, but the feature that I want to show first is actually what I call decorations. And it basically just is, you can place parts on other surfaces now. Not all the parts, you cannot take any kind of pobble and place it here, that doesn't work. But these small bits and bobs, like, you know, some kind of studs and spikes, if you, well, that's a bad spot for them probably, but generally that's what you can do. Let's do it like this, and I'm holding the shift key to duplicate these, which is a trick that you should know. Both when placing these parts and also when picking them up, you can hold shift to duplicate the part and get an exact copy, including scaling and material. Okay, let's do it like this. Probably give them my obsidian. Oh, this looks nasty. I don't like this at all. Dark wood. Okay, yeah, maybe. So this is the one new feature, and also making use of this is the engraving system, because an engraving is just another part that you pick from the library, and you can place that on any kind of existing part that you want, right? So there you go, engraving placed. And there again, it's very nice to know that you can hold shift to duplicate the thing. So hold shift, cycle through with Q and E, place some runes that way. You know, much quicker to do engravings this way. It's a similar, it's a fairly basic system that we've built here so far, with completely predefined engravings that are also all just, you know, gilded golden engravings. That's it. It's definitely something we want to extend. Yes, we want you to be able to draw your own things, either by drawing directly on the blade, or by, you know, creating these things and then having reusable elements that you created yourself that you can place on the blade. Some kind of, you know, create a pattern and then reuse it while making the blade. That will be very nice. One other thing that we want to do is actually have reassignable materials for them, because you don't always want these things to be gold. You want them to be I don't know, maybe you just want pure engravings, or maybe you want them to be a bit more magical and have a blue glow to them or something, or yellow glow. This would probably fit the gold better. Yeah, this is much nicer. So that's also something we want to allow in the future. Not quite there yet, but yep, this is okay. Good. Did I miss anything?
A very general question about a progression system in the game, and if there's gonna be any, and I guess might as well talk about how that might look.
Yes, okay. So let's just talk about the main gameplay a bit. I can't show too much of this yet. We've been working on it for quite a bit. And after this playtest, I think we're gonna start showing off all the gameplay and story mode bits. But the basic idea for the main gameplay is that you get customer commissions, and the customer will come to you and say, hey, I want a sword that is, you know, this and that size, this and that kind of weight category, and it should be this good at cutting and this good at stabbing, you know, certain kind of balance, whatever physical properties they can come up with, or we can come up with rather. And then also stylistic things. So the customer would say, I want a blade that underlines my loyalty to some kind of, well, some kind of allegiance that I have, or some kind of, well, virtue that is important to me. I want the blade to signify this. So you will build a sword in a certain kind of way for that customer, and if you do it right, the customer is happy and pays you. You get cash, you get experience points, and you can use that to upgrade your forge, to unlock new abilities, to increase your skills as a blacksmith, and build more and better swords. So everything that you see here will not be unlocked in the main gameplay from the start. You start with a basic selection of abilities, you start with a basic selection of parts. Right now we're experimenting with having vendors and crafting in the game, so basically you can either go to a vendor and buy a part, or you can learn to craft a part yourself and create it that way. So you have a bit of a, I want to say, collection gameplay in there as well, and that's how you progress through the game. Now it's also tied into the story, so the game is structured in days, and at the end of each in-game day you go and play a bit of story, right? You get an overview map of Aaron Keep, and you can choose from a number of locations to go to, and then you play through the story of being a blacksmith in Aaron Keep. And while you do that, you meet people who will join your forge and who will become your crew, and they will in turn bring their own skills. And I think I'm going to stop talking here because I don't want to spoil too much of the details on that. But yeah, characters are going to be majorly important in the story and the gameplay in terms of progression.
Very cool. There's another very frequent question that might be good to get out of the way or talk about really quickly, is if it's possible to export the geometry and out of this game and into others.
This is a very, very common question. And we get it. Yes, you made this sword, you want to 3D print it and put it on your wall now. And I can absolutely see the appeal that, you know, people want to use these things for modding. They want to create their own item cards for tabletop RPGs with this. They want to, well, maybe they're game devs as well and they want to use it in their own games, or they're cosplayers, or just people who fancy having this thing 3D printed and put on their desk or on their wall, depending on the size. So all of these are different use cases, and we need to go through them one by one, which makes it a bit tricky. And there's challenges both on the technical and on the legal side. I think it's worth expanding on that a bit, because I often write it on TikTok. It's a very common question under each and every one of our videos that we post there. So technically, I guess we can all solve this. 3D printing, of course, has its own challenges. If you want to export this so that it's ready for 3D printing, I think that will be a bit harder to do. But okay, we can also say, well, that's your problem, right? We can export it, but you still need to clean it up so that the 3D printing works properly, right? But on the other hand, there is legal questions, and as you can imagine, we're not lawyers. Last I checked, so there's the whole licensing shebang, because we are using materials from other sources that we cannot give away freely. You know, there's a license agreement attached to that, so as soon as we export, we need to make sure that we don't violate that license agreement. Then we might be using sword parts that we have licensed from somewhere else. So most of them we create ourselves, but for example, the horse. The horse is one that we borrowed from, I forgot the name, but it's listed in the credits. I don't think we'd be able to export a sword with the horse in it, you know, legally. And then there's also the third conundrum here, that once we allow exporting stuff from the game, we kind of open up the possibility that some other greedy company comes and just exports this entire library and makes their own sword making game with all the stuff that we have made and paid for. So that wouldn't be great either. So we need to be very sure that once we allow exporting from the game, we have a license attached to that that allows you guys to do cool stuff with it. You know, use it in mods and use it in cosplays, 3D printed, but not allows nasty companies to basically rip off our game. So that's where things come in.
Yeah, we would love to, but yeah, as you said, reality is really not so nice. Ah, there you go.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, we showed the sword sharing. There was one other question. Let me find that real quick. All right, so there was another question again about the release date, but that was already answered in chat. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay, well, just to reiterate, release date isn't set yet. If we're very lucky, it might be end of this year or late this year. If we're not lucky, yeah, I'm sorry, I brought the cam back. If we're not so lucky, then it might be sometime in 2025. We can't make promises yet. Also, people keep asking about platforms. Is this going to be on Xbox? Is this going to be on PS5? Mobile. It's not going to be on
Most
mobile.
likely not.
It's pretty much just not going to be on mobile, because as you can see, it's well, it does its share of rendering, and I don't think that would be doable on mobile. Also, I think the controls would be very tough to get touch compatible. So currently we're targeting PC, Steam, and the Steam Deck attached to that as well. I think we're planning on supporting some amounts of modding for this game, so you can also bring in your own sword parts if you wish. Maybe create your own little stories. So Steam Workshop is going to be great for this, I think, and as such, well, Steam and the Steam Deck are our main focuses for this. We will see once we have decided on who is going to publish this game, whether we do it ourselves or whether we find a suitable publisher to help us in that regard. We will see if we can do PlayStation and Xbox. We would love to. VR is also a thing, of course. It would be nice to make swords in VR, and of course it would be nice to swing this thing around in VR and then go chop your friends in a multiplayer game. We're a small team, so we'll see what we can do and what we can't do. Game developers' enemy number one is feature creep and taking up too much, more than you can handle. So let's finish this thing, and we will try our best to do whatever is coolest, basically, and yeah, we'll see. We'll see when we get there. Let's jump off friends, sure.
Well, yeah. There's also another question. If it's possible to do other weapon types, not blades, maybe you can try your hand at creating a non-bladed weapon.
Sure. The good thing is that we can now place spikes on this thing, right? So mace suddenly became a lot nicer, and people made nice maces already. But yeah, you can of course abuse the system, let's say. And if you ooh, this is nasty. If you go to our Discord and look at the Share Your Crazy channel, people have made all sorts of stuff in this. I read a bug report from a streamer a few days ago, and he said, well, it crashed when I was trying to build a house. Like, yes, okay, sure, build a house, why not? So yeah, people have made lightsabers, and people have made all sorts of wicked things. Flatten this a bit, narrow this a bit. And then yeah, you can try your hand at making this. You can also get creative and, you know, disregard the blade. Totally, just build everything out of parts. Thing is, the main game is not gonna like that, because in the main game, people are going to request that you build a sword for them. So a stabby, slashy weapon. And some of them might say things like, hey, I want a training weapon, so this has to be really bad at cutting. And then maybe you can give them a mace, you know, with a spike. So it's good for stabbing, and if the balance is what the guy wants, then, well, why not? But at the end of the day, the game is going to treat it, during main gameplay, like a sword, and is going to try to find out how good this thing is for slashing, stabbing, swinging, how flexible the blade is. Spoiler, this one is not flexible at all. So yeah, but in creative mode, well, the world is your oyster. Ace, club. We didn't name the other sword, did we? Oh, jeez.
No, there were some suggestions from the chat that maybe you could read, or I can read them to you, or we can just pick a random one.
Sting, the curve of destiny, yes. The shrouded skull splitter. Okay, let's go with the Scorpion's skull splitter of destiny then. Okay, I think this is it.
Nice. I was about to suggest a very similar thing.
Okay, great. Cool. Christian, do you think there's anything else we should show? Or any other questions that we should be answering?
Let me think.
If not, I have another...
Oh yeah, there was one question about basket hills, I think, that I glossed over. Like,
Yes.
or maybe that's a more, we could make that a bit more general in case of any hills parts that are a bit more complex than those that we currently
Yes.
have.
So you can see that we have these first approaches here, where we have these recombinable parts, where you basically have a quillen block in the center, and then quillens attached to it, and a side ring. And now we could maybe go and add some finger rings here, and, you know, then a knuckle guard, and suddenly we're pretty close to having some kind of complex hilt, maybe basket hilts. We could make them up that way. We're a bit torn right now on how much we want to make them modular, which of course is a bunch of work, versus how much we want to make them just ready-made and well-designed, beautiful pieces that you can choose from, right? So this is one question that we're asking specifically in the feedback survey. So if you go here and click feedback survey, it's going to open a Google Forms thing. And yes, one of the questions there is like, what kind of parts would you like to see? More recombinable stuff to build your own parts from, or more finished, beautifully designed, polished single piece parts, right?
There's a question about if you can show measurements. We have measurements in game, and could you show them again? Maybe just do another quick overview of
Yes.
what they are.
Well, measurements. It's a bit tricky. We don't have any kind of ruler or something in the game. The game shows you the thickness of the current cross-section that you're looking at, and the width as well, which is probably more interesting. It shows you the overall blade length, so that's following this curve. It's not from point to start of the blade, but it's actually along the curve. And then if you go to this kind of background, you can see these squares down here. That's 10 centimeters, if that helps any. I think it's probably not 10 centimeters. It's probably 5. Yeah, it's 5, because otherwise that wouldn't match at all. Yeah, 5 seems about right. That's, yes, and at some point we should have a ruler tool, I think, in some way. Be nice.
And yeah, we are going to, at some point, if it makes sense for the gameplay at least, add stuff like mirroring parts and maybe some stuff about general, what's the word, symmetry. Like maybe you get some visualizations for that or something, if it makes sense for the gameplay. First and foremost, that's the rule we're going to follow with everything. If it makes gameplay more interesting and engaging, then that might be something we go for, and if not, then it's probably not going to make it.
I haven't talked about symmetry at all, so of course you can also make blades that are single-edged and can control each side of the blade individually. So if that is something you want to do, then that can be done as well with this button up here that toggles whether the current ability affects both sides of the blade or just the one.
That's true. We didn't show that. The question was, I think, specifically about sword parts, like, or hit parts which we don't currently have any usability improvements for, as I'm aware. But yeah.
You mean about? Sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, like there was the question if you're on the mace top, if there's an easy way to just mirror the spikes to the other side and stuff like that. I'm not aware that we currently have something like that.
Hooray! My Unreal crashed.
Or maybe we do, and I don't know about it.
We don't. No. The only thing you can do is shift click. There's my Unreal booting back up. I broke it. The only thing you can do is actually shift click the part and copy it that way. And well, by copying, you get you get at least a copy of the part, and can then use that to place the parts. Okay, I think my maze club is broken for some reason, so that's good that we're finding that now. I will have to take care of that.
You found a bug on stream?
Yeah, I did.
Amazing.
These guys are working. Yeah, this is good. All right. Cool. So, are there any more questions, Christian, that you could gather from chat?
No, I didn't see any questions. If I glossed over any of your questions, please just drop them again. Otherwise, feel free to ask us on Discord at a later point.
So another thing that I can talk about in the meantime is the community challenge that we had running these past couple of days. So we asked you to follow us on each and every platform out there, basically, and bring up these numbers a bit. This is especially important for us because we're going to be pitching this game to publishers and to people who might fund the rest of the development, and of course they want to see that well, people are interested in this game. So bringing these numbers up is great, and you did that. You really helped us push the Steam numbers up, which is fantastic. And we started 2 days ago with 317 people on YouTube, and let me just check what YouTube says. We have 524. Great. So congratulations, everyone. We surpassed the 200 new followers on YouTube as well, which was the goal. And
Yes.
with that goal surpassed, that brings the playtest forward another 12 hours. So it would be set to start tomorrow morning at 11. 12 hours earlier than planned. 11, that's, well, that's Europe time, so super early in the morning for you US folks. You can basically set an alarm and get up very early. Christian, is there anything else you want to talk about, or I'm about to close this up otherwise?
There was one question earlier about materials in engravings, or yeah, like assigning materials to engravings and stuff like that.
Yes,
It's
right now
currently
they're
not possible.
right now they're all gold, and you cannot assign anything to them. We want to build a system where you can place the engraving and then either have a vanilla non-colored engraving, or make it gold, or make it magical glowing. So that is something that we're planning on adding, but it's not in there yet.
Okay, so there's the question again about other weapon types, now specifically pole arms, and if those will be planned for the future. I think the short answer is the main game with story and some gameplay that's interesting in our eyes will focus on bladed weapons, and it will treat everything that you create as a bladed weapon and try to judge it and decide if it's good for what you were tasked to do. And if you create something else, then that might not make any sense. But in the creative mode that we're currently looking at, you can do whatever you want, really. Is that correct? Yeah, blades are still only steel currently. We haven't had time to really work on blade materials the way we think they should work, and it's a bit more complex than just designing a different material to it, really. Because, I mean, first and foremost, we are always thinking about the gameplay side of things and not this creative mode, and then there's a bunch of questions that need to be answered. Yeah, that's fine. Asking is always fine, of course. And yeah, the playtest will end Sunday in a week. But the game will also show you when it's gonna end.
Can we see the weapon called 5 Fingers of Scorn that we saw on the list? Yes, that's for a video that I made today. I hope it opens and doesn't crash my Unreal, so keep your fingers crossed. It works. I hope you like it. It's a Cinque Deo, of course.
Beautiful.
Two-sided blades, like Darth Maul having blades on both sides of the hilt. Well, we don't have any specific plans there. Someday I want to do a breakout weekend thing and see what happens if I actually just, you know, duplicate the blade and see how broken it is. I think it will be very broken, but yeah, we'll see. I think for creative mode it could be very interesting, but we'll have to see what that actually means in terms of technical headaches. Right, and then about any plans for having control over the scene where we display the swords? Would be awesome to unlock new ways to display them for screenshots and sharing. Yes, definitely. These scenes that we have grown a bit stale, I agree. Especially if you've seen the last playtest, well then you know all of them, I think. So yeah, definitely I would love to integrate some new scenes, also some more display-ish scenes with, like, you know, a wall mount, for example, where you can put your sword, or a weapon stand. Maybe with some customization so that you can actually adjust the lighting and stuff. That would be nice. Oh, thank you. You like my Cinque Deo. That's nice. What's the biggest sword you can make? Uh, I think it's
You want to
limited
crash your
to
editor again?
2 meters in size. Yeah. So that is about the biggest you can make. I'm gonna add a grip for reference. I think we looked up actually the dimensions of the Buster sword and of the Guts Dragon Slayer sword, and then gave that, you know, an extra 20%, and that's the limits or something.
Yeah, I was actually thinking you were just gonna scale up the hills until infinity, because I think you can still do that. And I mean, that way you can create something that's a lot bigger than this, but the blade itself will be limited.
Yeah, I think it's not infinity anymore. It has a limit, but it's still pretty damn big. Also, this whole thing weighs 250 kilograms now.
But I mean, you can still stack the hilt bits next to each other, right? Or did we add an upper limit to the amount of parts?
No.
At some point,
you can throw in as many parts as you think your PC will be able to handle.
There was a question earlier about if we're going to reach out to other YouTube or other content creators to get more exposure for the game.
Oh yeah, we have. Some people have streamed it over the last couple of days. Some of the bigger creators have gotten back to us and told us they were interested. Of course, you can imagine their schedules are pretty full. They usually plan their videos in advance a bit. So we'll see. You might see some more people picking it up during this playtest. At least that's what I hope.
And will there be the ability to sell blades to other players?
Oh,
that sounds like multiplayer.
That does sound like multiplayer. I don't think there will be selling. You could mint your blades as NFTs, and no, you can't. I don't think there will be trading among players, because I don't think it makes sense for the gameplay that we have envisioned. But I definitely think there will be some kind of sharing of blades. This looks dumb. I want to delete this. There will be sharing between players for sure, I think. And we have the sharing feature now, right? But it's just the start. I think I could definitely imagine, you know, something where you upload the sword and then you get an overview of the last shared swords according to some search criteria with a nice preview image. You can actually browse through what other people are making in game or something like this. We should think about that and see how we can make this more engaging.
And I think that's the last question here. Again, about basket hills and if that's something that we're gonna pursue in the future. We definitely have some thoughts on that. We're not quite decided if the basket hills that we're gonna add are going to be one very designed piece that you can add, or if it's gonna be multiple tiny pieces that you can construct any basket hill out of. We haven't decided on that, and that's one reason why we haven't done it yet. Not the only reason, but one.
Yep.
Yeah, and definitely there's going to be mod support via Steam and stuff like that. So if there's anything in the released game that you feel is lacking, then there's still the possibility to add that yourself or hope that someone else does.
Yeah, we should possibly add that. Well, there's gonna be modding, but it's not gonna be there soon, and it might be a post-release thing, especially with mod toolkits and, you know, any kind of editors and stuff. These might come a bit later than the main game, and we don't know the release date yet, so we'll see. Does this game have a free creator mode? Yes, you're looking at it. What you're seeing here is the game's creative mode without any kind of gameplay. So you just put together swords and marvel at them. And the main game will have restrictions. You will have action points that you spend on making these swords. Make swords for customers. And if you make them the right way, you get paid and can advance in the game, basically. Are custom hilts a thing? Well, it's a very generic question, I think. Well, yes, you can build custom hilts from all these parts. We want to introduce some more part customization. So you can see that right now we have this tiny little tendril here. We have it in a straight variant and a curved variant and a twisted variant and a non-twisted variant. So I imagine that we will build a system that will allow you to actually place this thing and then bend it, you know, yourself. At least that's what I would like to do. But that's about as far as we're gonna go with custom hilts. I don't think we will build a system that is, you know, similarly powerful to making the blades, just because hilts are so different, and it's really, I think it's not possible to build something that will let you make them easily, unless we build a full 3D modeling application, and then, well, that doesn't make any sense because other people have done that.
And there's another question: when the playtest is again? I think that's very
Sorry,
good
I was
question
just
to end with, maybe.
just getting thrown off by the Thomas the Train God hilt pommel. Yes, definitely. I need this. I didn't know I need it, but now I do. Sorry, when is the playtest again was the question, or which
Yeah.
one? When is the playtest again? So good news, all of you have just hit the YouTube goal. We had this community challenge running, and said, well, if we're gonna get 200 new YouTube followers, then we gotta go and start the playtest another 12 hours earlier. So it's gonna start tomorrow at 11. That's in 14 hours basically. And yes, there's that. Yes, David, for your world building you have a free creator mode, so again, this is what you're looking at right now, where you can just build these swords and go crazy.
Unless he's talking about free as in for free, then maybe that's a different thing.
Okay,
yeah.
well, yes. Sorry, but you'll have to invest in your world building if you're serious about it.
That's true. Yeah, but the game will not have a free bids, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, no. I mean, we might put out a free demo at some point, but then we will have probably less parts than this, and can see if the game, you know, does what you want it to do, and check it out before you buy. But eventually we want this thing to be paid, because it's actually costing a lot of money, and I'm here trying not to starve while making this. So eventually we have to get paid for this, I'm afraid.
Will people be able to change the length and curvature of guards in the near future? I think you can already, or maybe I'm misunderstanding the question.
Right now you can just change the scale. So if we have,
right.
Jesus, let me actually get out of here and make a new sword. Right now we can only scale these things up and down, right? And we have the pre-made parts that have their defined length and curvature. You can scale them up and down, but you cannot flexibly bend them yet. I hope that at some point we can make this more flexible, but we'll see. That's also a question. If you play this thing, please fill out the feedback survey, because it's also a question like what should we be focusing on in terms of feature extensions for this game? What's the most important stuff for you, so we can prioritize that. Thanks, Cody.
And there's another question. A guy who plays stuff just got here, and he would like to know when it releases. And I think he also would like to know when the playtest releases. So I think 2 questions in one.
Oh yeah. So playtest is out in 14 hours. Though we'll have to talk about this in a second, Christian. Playtest is out in 14 hours, and the main game, we don't know, honestly. Might be towards the end of the year if it launches into early access, might be sometime next year if we're not going for an early access release, which is neither is confirmed yet, either way. All right. So I think we should wrap this up. Thank you all for being here. As I said, the playtest is now launching 12 hours earlier, thanks to you all subscribing to us here on YouTube, which is a bit of a problem because tomorrow at 11 a.m. I would have to push the button. Yes, Bart, story will be some sort of visual novel RPG. Well, it's not going to be a visual novel. It's going to be very RPG-like, fantasy-ish in terms of tone. But yes, expect illustrations and text and clicking through it with a dialogue system. So, coming back to the playtest, there's a bit of a problem because somebody has to push the button tomorrow at 11, and I'm actually not at home, and I'm the one who has access to this. So, I think we just found a bug, right? We just found a bug that prevented me from reopening my maze, so I guess I will spend the next minutes and hours debugging that thing. And I think once I'm done, I will just hit that button and let you all go crazy with this tonight. And if you keep your fingers crossed, and I'm quick in fixing that bug and finding out what's wrong there. As soon as I have that, I will push a build, and you will get a notification. So you can also you can already spread the good news. Playtest is coming, I guess, 2 hours max. I'm just setting that goal for myself. And I think that should be fine. And the other goals, just because somebody asked on Discord as well, the playtest starting earlier, of course, doesn't mean that it ends earlier. So we're not just putting it forward, but we're also making it run longer. Thank you all for reaching those goals with us. The other two goals on Twitter and our newsletter are also coming along nicely. They're not quite there yet, but we just keep them running during the playtest. And if we end up reaching them, I think we'll just extend the end of the playtest outwards, maybe by a day or something. We'll see. Let's just get started, jump in, and see how this all goes. I'll get on fixing that bug, pushing a new build, and then you will get a notification. So keep your phones or whatever notifies you close and get ready to download the Bladesong Playtest.
Thanks, Redbeard. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Yes, join our Discord if you're not on there, and let's talk there. Thank you all. Have a good night.
See ya.